We know how you want it to be, but sometimes these
Welcome
things
to
are
the
bigger
Grounds
than
for
you
Sculpture.
thinking. You want to go back to New Jersey, but sometimes New Jersey's not as big as you think. The city is like a garden, and if you give it time, it'll grow.
In this episode, we will conclude our visit with Carole Furman. Carole will share her experience about how to make it as an artist. Host, Rich Butterface.
Hold on, see today, you're okay. We know exactly what you want, but sometimes what you have is more than you think. You want to go back to New Jersey, but sometimes New Jersey's not as big as you think. When I go.
So what is this thing, survival of an artist? Why does an artist want to be an artist? They know that choosing a profession like fine art is a very rough road. They open themselves day after day to criticism, to being put down, to being rejected. It's tough to get into a gallery. It's tough to sell your work. It's tough to do your work. It's not a career that that's easy to do. You're really running your own small business when you do your art, and there's much better ways to make a living. So why does a person do fine art? I guess you have to have a passion that burns inside of you so strong that no matter what happens, no matter how many people don't like your art, no matter how many people don't buy your art, no matter how many galleries don't take you on, you know deep down that it's something you must do, and you want to do, and you love to do. And I think the important word is love to do. Because if it's something you really enjoy doing, then you do it, and you're thankful that every day you can do what you enjoy. And all the other things that come along with the career, like it being hard, or you're not making enough money to live, and maybe you have to do waitressing or some other job, and maybe you can only do your art at night or part-time, but you still have to do it. You do it because you love it, and if you don't love it, don't do it. Survival of an artist, as an artist. In the back of my mind, I always thought that someday I'm going to be one of those famous artists that leave their mark, that has longevity, transcendence, or whatever you want to call it. And every time I do a sculpture, I strive to do it the best I can do, because I always think, and this is my own little fantasy, I think that someday when I'm not here, there's going to be that sculpture. And the sculpture has to be really good, because they're going to remember that this speaks for itself, and I'm not there anymore to push it or do whatever I'm going to do. And I really have to make it good. So I guess I go the extra distance with each piece, because I want it to be the best that I could do. And I always said, going back to survival, that I would survive as an artist if my work was good enough that there would be enough money to do my next piece. And it was like a little deal I made with myself. So people always say to me, well, you don't make that much money. And I'm not talking about strangers. I'm talking about the people who know me well. or you're working night and day, you're working 7 days a week, why you're always doing it? And I tell them that I would do it no matter what, whether I made money, whether people like it. Because once again, it's like in your mind. It's in your mind that people don't really have to like it, that you have to enjoy what you're doing. And I think with any creative thing, with dance, with music, with any of the visual arts, photography, film, there's only like 100 famous people. And of the 100 famous people, there's maybe 10 to 20 who are icons, maybe 10. And of the 10 icons, I don't know how many of them are an icon when we're all long gone in 200 years, 300 years from now. So maybe 1 or 2 live on. And then let's say it's 300 years from now and you got like 3 people that the generation in 300 years from now, they walk around and there's 3 people that have survived, their name has survived, their work has survived. Probably the man on the street in 300 years from now might not even know their name, but only people in the arts would know their name. And that's the kind of business I went into. That's the kind of business the people that I adore, the people I love, the artists, the creative people of this world, that's what they do. And why do we do it? We love what we do. And, also art and culture and creative things are something the world needs. The world is not about 2 + 2 or making money every minute or materialistic things or looking good or all the other things that people value, having the best car, having the biggest home. I mean, without culture, without art, without music, what would life be like? What would it be like? Can you imagine how horrible life would be? So I'm doing my thing, I'm doing my work, I'm doing my art. Speaking of work, my mother always says, when are you going to get a job? I do my art. I love what I do. And it's survival. For me, the art makes me survive, actually. When things get really, really tough and I'm nervous, I don't need to have a drink. I need to do some art. I need to draw. I need to paint. And I'm in my own world. I'm in my own space. And that's a really healthy place to be for me. So what I could say to you artists out there and young people and old people and people who have other careers and always wanted to be an artist and all the people who love art, all I can say is that you have to really, really either be loving what you do, possibly a little crazy, very passionate, and do what you love and be lucky that you can. Be lucky that you have something that you love to do and you don't have to, it's going to keep you well, it's going to keep you normal, it's going to keep you good, and it's going to maybe change the world and affect some people around you. So that's my advice. I have the good fortune of being an artist who's always somehow made money. I don't make as much money as I spend because every time I make money, I do either a marble or a bronze or a show in some other place or something to use up all the money I made and then some. And there are lots of people that I know, lots of artists who don't make any money. And some, well, I can't say they don't make any, but they go through stretches of time where there's no money coming in. And even I do myself go through stretches of a time. And what can I say to those artists who have to keep working, who have to pay their bills, who have to live, and who have to work and do their art? You have to get another job, I guess, and supplement your habit, because everyone has to live. And whatever it takes so that you can do what you love to do, whatever it takes. you know, you have to do. You can make prints of your work and try to sell them for less money. You have to be inventive. You have to invent a need for yourself and publish yourself or think of something that works. Just keep trying things. And if you can't afford to do that because days and weeks and months go by and nothing's coming in, then you have to supplement your job by working part-time and do something else. But another thing I want to talk about survival is one day about 8 years ago, actually it was more, one day about 14 years ago, I had a terrible accident to my hand, and I had a compound fracture of my right index finger. And as you know, I do these super realistic sculptures where I put every eyelash in and every hair. And I was faced with the possibility that my right hand would never work again. And I might not even have a right hand, that I could have lost my right hand. And I was in a very nervous state over it till I had my surgery. And I remember thinking that, what would I do if I couldn't be an artist? What would I do? How would I do it? And it was going through my mind, and I was wondering, well, I guess I'm going to have to do something else, and I won't have a right hand. But then I felt better because I knew that if I couldn't do my art as I got famous doing as these super realistic sculptures because my right hand didn't work, I would think of another way to do my art. Do it with my left hand, do it with my toe, do it somehow, but do my art. I don't know how, but I was going to continue. And I made that decision that I was going to continue regardless of whether I had a hand, regardless of whether I could use my hand, and no matter what. And it was mental. And then I realized that art is somewhat mental, that you can't do anything. You can't photograph people, you can't do film, you can't do dance, you can't do anything unless mentally you have the desire to do it. And there's a lot that's mental. So, you know, jumping forward to the story you told me about a friend of yours, Rich, and other artists that I know, many artists who are not making a living at art, they got to apply the same mental thing to what they do. They have to make it, they have to realize that if they want to do this work, that they have to come up with some way to do it. That maybe that doesn't cost money. Maybe they can't afford to sculpt for a while. Maybe they have to draw, do prints, or do some form of art that doesn't cost a lot till they can afford to make a sculpture. But they shouldn't give up their art, and I know they won't. They may have to supplement their income in some way. They may have to just get a sketchbook and sketch. That doesn't cost a lot of money. Sell your sketches, sell your drawings. It's not, you don't make a consistent living. This is not, doing art is not someplace like fine art, it's not like you go to someone's, an office every single day and every Friday you get a salary. It doesn't work that way. So this is the career we chose. This is the life path we chose. This is the journey, and it's full of highs and lows and hills and valleys, and you just gotta keep doing it in whatever way you can. And if you have to make a living, you have to supplement your income, you have to be creative. I've rented my home. I've rented it to 3 or 4 people, and I wasn't supposed to. I called them my family. I've done I've rented my studio, I've given artist shows. I've done a lot of things to supplement my income. And I'm doing well. But that's what it's all about. Person and everything I've learned and strived for.
And your
Plus,
dedication keeps you going because you're saying you had hard times.
yeah, even now, I'm like hugely successeful in Europe.
And you work hard.
I went to, I work hard, and I went to a few galleries in Chelsea, and I can't go into a gallery and ask them to look at my work. They don't look at anybody. I don't care who you are. You think I'm important? There's a lot more artists who people know their name. There's Rauschenberg and Rosenquist and and Jasper Johns and all these icon names right now, Andy Warhol, all these people living and not living. There's the top 10, the top 20, the top 100, you know, and Frank Steller is a friend of mine, and he just had a show at the Met. And Frank he spends so much money to do these incredible sculptures. What is he making? I mean, I don't know anybody's finances. You never really know. But it costs a lot to be an artist. And the bigger you go, the more people work for you, the bigger your operation, the more places you show, the more things cost, the more money you put out. Sculpture is a very expensive field. And sometimes I think that you have to inherit great wealth to be a sculptor. It's impossible to afford a studio in New York. There's very few artists that have studios in the city. They may have it in the Brooklyn or New Jersey areas, but it's a very expensive thing. And of course, years ago, we had big spaces, and now we have little spaces for studios, getting smaller all the time because of the way rent is. Is it better to be an out-of-town artist? I think there's pros and cons to both. I mean, it all depends on what you need the individual needs creatively to be stimulated. I am a city person. I love the country, but I don't like to stay in the country too long. I like the hubbub of the city. It gives me stimulating ideas. I do sculptures of people. I like looking at people. Does it make my art? Is it better for my career? In a way it is, because you can come today. In a way, everyone passes through New York, and if it's easy to visit me, then a lot more people will come see my work. I can make a phone call to someone who collects my art who lives in New York and say, can you run over? I have something new to show you. If I was somewhere in the Midwest and someone from New York was buying something, they might not buy it because it might be too hard to say. So I think it really does help. I think it helps, definitely. Does it help everyone? Everyone isn't me, so. Speaking of education and art, education is wonderful and it's fun. I mean, for me it was fun. I love to learn, but artists go to art school. Do they become famous professional artists because they went to art school? Art school is a beginning. Survival in life takes other skills. And I don't care what you're doing, if it's art, it could even be something else, but they don't teach you that in school. Survival means, how do you pay your bills and do what you love? How do you do what you want to do if you get injured? How do you do what you want to do if someone in your family needs you? If you have children, if you get married, if you're not making a penny, and all sorts of other things. If you have to move, relocate, how do you continue? How do you survive as an artist? I was very lucky. I didn't have that problem. But there's a lot of artists that work for me that live and function in the city, and they even have art studios. They make very little money because I pay them. I think they share studios as a group. They share spaces. They rent a space as a group, so whoever is renting them that space knows that between all of them, they'll come up with the money. And they each have a little spot in that space that they go to, that they work at. They live on the outskirts of the city, in the boroughs, or in Jersey. Some of them do live in the city. I don't know how they live. I haven't been to their apartments. But I imagine some of them may be from families that help them out, or others just group together and help each other and share expenses.
Is your particular art harder to, talking about survival again, if you sketch, your sketches could be, you could have a year's worth of sketches stacked 5 feet high, and that would be your life's work. paintings would take a little bit more room because canvases take
Right.
up a bit more space. But sculpture takes up so much space. As you build your art, as you build the collection, how do you find a place to keep that? Do you discount it to people, say, until I need it sometime, or until I can sell it? Or, I mean, if it's hard just to find studio space, where do you find warehouse space?
Yeah, and that's expensive too. Being a sculptor is, I often wonder if you really do have to be mentally ill, because not only is it hard to afford it and to do it, and to keep it, and to have enough space, and to buy the materials. Galleries don't want it. They don't have the space. They don't want to insure it. It's harder to sell. It's more expensive to sell. It's harder to ship. It's more expensive. So all across the board, it's not the chosen profession. I mean, if you're going to think about this rationally, you don't want to be a sculptor. So you have to ask yourself, well, why do you do it? You know, why do you do it? I don't know. You know, I do it. I do it. I love to do it. How do you survive? You survive because you want to do it. And I think that, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. If you have to do it, you have to figure out how you're going to do it. And I guess it's practically as simple as that, because if somebody has to do something, they will do it. They will do it.
Do you feel new technology threatens the sculptor's way of doing things?
No, I think it can help. I think that through technology, through the internet, you can get your work out there, which we never could before.
Easier to promote?
It's easier to promote. People don't buy it off the internet, but they get to see it, and they get familiar with your name. I think the technology of the digital imaging with the cameras, with those big pieces I did, which were blown up digitally, are fabulous. You can shrink things, blow things up. I mean, the age we're living in now presents incredible technology to do unusual and different things, things we couldn't do before, and we should take advantage of it. We live in this time. We should take advantage of what there is out there to enhance what we're doing, to make it special.
Are you, as an artist, less threatened as a sculptor? For example, if you're a musician, for a period of time, people were stealing music. It's very easy to see a picture today and say, oh, I can copy that.
And they do.
But it's real hard, I would think, to copy a piece of sculpture that is large and takes time to work on, and you have to have the material. So in some ways, do you feel a little insulated or protected, or just as vulnerable as anyone else?
It's an interesting question. Even though everything you said is completely true, I wonder why it is that so many people copy me. I sued an assistant who worked for me for 17 years because his work, once he left my employ, was so exactly the same that I couldn't tell what was his and what was mine. And I don't know why people do that, but people copy you no matter who you are or what you do.
Well, you have a few techniques you perfected yourself that you want to keep to yourself.
Yeah,
right?
I have techniques, but you know, if someone wants to do a water drop, and I have my way of doing it, my chemicals, like I said, if they want to do it badly enough, there's another way to do it that they'll figure out, or maybe they'll even figure out my way all on their own. Because if they spend as much time figuring it out as I spent to try to figure it out, they might get there. I mean, I put everything into this. I'm at it all the time. And I think it's a terrible waste of talent for someone to spend their time copying another person. If someone really believes in themselves, why in the world would they want to do what someone else does? But you know, you see it in every single way. You see it in music, you see it in art. There's a certain amount that's serendipitous, where someone may not even know you, and they may have a vision and it's similar, but there is a lot that's copied. And I mean, you can call it...
Musicians will do cover. They'll sing someone else's songs, or,
Oh, yeah.
or an artist will let someone else write a song that they'll sing. Let's talk for a moment about physical survival. Certainly at one time, when we spoke earlier today, you mentioned that you had to work with hazardous chemicals. Is that still a necessity, or have we found safer ways? We've certainly found safer ways to do photography in the past. help out in sculpting?
Sculpture. I'm sure I'm looking for safer ways. You know, I'm looking for things without fumes. I'm looking for resins that are water-based. But you know what? I sprayed yesterday, and I breathed it in, and I sprayed oil paint, and I breathed in those fumes, and I'm breathing in all that stuff. Even if I'm safer with the resins, I'm breathing in the oil and the paint and touching paint that has cadmiums and all these things, and you know, I'm doing it, and I'm not stopping. Like a smoker smokes and they're not stopping, but luckily I don't smoke. But, you know, I'm doing it because this is what I'm doing with my life, and I'm going to do it. And, you know, maybe I'm going to get sick. I don't know. Maybe I'm being foolish, but I'll try to be safe. I wear a mask. Not when you're filming me.
In the next episode, we will be inside the studio of Gyuri Hollosy at Grounds Sculpture.
Sometimes these things are bigger than you think, and you want to go back to New Jersey, but sometimes New Jersey's not as big as you think. The city is large.